a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón.
All right, well, let's jump right into things. First podcast, that was pretty good. You know, we kicked off the beginning of the podcast for me. You know, so that was pretty fun. My wife was awesome to have as a special guest. We talked about a lot of random shit, but it was good times. It was pretty good. If you haven't listened to the first and I thought pretty awesome episode of the Whitest Mexican podcast, the link to that will be below in the description, so feel free to check that one out. My first special guest was my wife, and of course Jessie Retro herself, so that was pretty fun. We got to talk about a lot of random shit. Got to catch up on like certain things that you may not have known about me, which again is one of my goals with this podcast, is to really kind of open things up in terms of my personality, who I really am, you know, because visual wise, I mean, I'm not the most entertaining. There's no way you're gonna offend me when you say that. Someone in a previous vlog of the retro vlogs just straight out said, man, he's boring. And I was not mad, not offended. Totally, probably true. Like 80% true. I'm not really that funny. But that 20%, I'm fucking gold. Just saying. Couple drinks, can't be stopped. But, getting a little off topic here. Let's see here. In this episode, we're gonna basically talk about, well, first off, it's just me today. It's just me by myself talking to a mic. No special guest this time around. I'm still working on getting a couple of other people lined up in future episodes, so hopefully we can get that done. But just for today, it'll just be me. Today's topics, because I have two of them. The first one, I want to talk about Father's Day. It just passed this last Sunday, and me and Jess had our own kind of, I guess, special way of celebrating it. So I'll talk about that a little bit, and talk about my own father, which again, you have no idea who he is, what he's about, blah blah blah. So I'll go into a little more detail about that later. The second topic for this episode is kind of the current state of our political system. There's been a lot of shit going on politically in this country. I mean, obviously it's been going on for a long time, but just recently, in like just this, you know, past few months with the presidential primaries coming up, everyone's trying to figure out who they're going to vote for this coming, you know, November. And it's interesting that I'm noticing a lot of people on both sides, you know, Democrats, Republicans, a lot of them are starting to finally come to the middle. They're starting to agree on a lot of things, and that's actually pretty promising. So, I haven't been really vlogging lately. I know I've been kind of absent from that for a couple weeks. We haven't really gotten back into the swing of things since our trip to Orange County. Ever since we got back, we've kind of been playing catch up with basically everything. But so you probably haven't really gotten to see what's been going on with me per se. I know in a previous retro vlog I had mentioned that in the month of May, myself and a coworker of mine basically challenged each other to a weight loss competition. And it is basically, you have from May 1st till the end of May to lose 15 pounds. And whoever lost the 15 pounds the fastest won the challenge. We didn't wager anything on it. It wasn't like for money or anything like that. It was just basically a way of like keeping each other accountable for what we were trying to do, because both of us have always talked about, you know, getting back into shape, losing weight, eating healthier, different types of working out, you know, shit like that. So we finally kind of just broke down and we're like, dude, we need to make this shit happen. We've been talking about this for like way too long. It's time we fucking took the next step, pushed it to the limit, and see how we came out on the other side. Basically, start the month, flabby, out of shape, what have you. And then end of the month, good to go for the summer. Just freaking ready to rock. So I personally had my own strategy of getting to that weight loss of 15 pounds. And no, it did not involve any crash diets like the military diet. That was also in a previous retro vlog. If you guys want to check that out, we'll put that in the description below. That was a crazy 72 hours. Very fucking crazy. But I lost like 8 pounds during that 3 days. It might have just been water weight strictly, but still, for me, I've never lost that much weight in such a short amount of time, if not overall, in quite a while. So for me, it kind of lit a fire under my ass to like, dude, if you could lose 8 pounds doing something crazy like that, how much could you lose like working out more, eating healthier, eating less instead of, like eating what you normally eat and eating how much of what you normally eat, So May was good. May was a good month for me because I started out at 190 pounds and I finished the month just around 182 pounds. So again, tried the crazy fucking extreme weight loss plan, lost 8 pounds, then went about it a more conventional way, eating right, exercising, sleeping better, sleeping longer, drinking more water, all that shit, and got the same result without the shock of the rapid weight loss. It was a smooth transition, so that was good. Currently, I think I've put on like 2 pounds since that, which is actually pretty good because I've kind of taken a step away from the healthy eating. I kind of fell off the wagon per se, had a couple of fast food meals here and there, not like full on days of just fast food, but like a late night Jack in the Box or Del Taco run, something like that after a night of drinking or something, but so that was good for me. And now I'm getting back into the workout routine, and obviously eating healthy is like I would say 80 to 90% of the battle. If you can get that down, you can get rid of fast food, you can get rid of the sugar, all that shit, and then the pounds just freaking fly off. Which it's still, come on, it's not easy. Nobody said it is, but when you look yourself in the mirror and you start to see, you start, fitting into your clothes way better. Like, you start noticing that. You're like, damn, I don't even have to, like, suck anything in. This freaking flannel just buttoned all the way up, and I didn't have to, like, suck anything in, or I don't have to, like, hold my breath or nothing. Like, pretty fucking good. So, the benefits far outweigh the sacrifices you make when not eating the foods you really like. So that was that. That was the month of May. Still pretty good. But now that May is over and now June has begun, we have kind of, again, been trying to catch up on a lot of things. Jessie basically made a life-changing decision. She left her job where she was currently working. Well, she previously working, I should say. And now she's fully independent. She is fully immersed into the world of basically a small business owner. That's basically what she is now. She's running the show. She's calling her own shots. She's her own boss. She makes her own hours. She sets her own prices. Like, fucking A. This is a fucking dream. It really is. Just watching her freaking light up when she goes to work. That's what it's all about, people. That's what it's all about. So that has really freed her up to go after the same things that I want, which again talks about, eating healthier, being able to work out, make the time to exercise, shit like that. She wasn't able to do that when she was working at Supercuts, but now she can, and that's the best thing in the world when you can, like, get that shit done when you're not having to like sacrifice sleep or your time, it's like, oh, I have more time than I thought I ever could. I can actually do things that I want to do now and then go to work. So that's cool. This past weekend, this is probably the worst segue ever, by the way. Father's Day was on Sunday, and we didn't really celebrate it at all. Yeah. Mostly because both of our fathers have passed on. Jesse's father has passed on, longer than mine. I was like 19 when my dad passed away. So when Father's Day comes around, we don't really celebrate it. We don't really acknowledge it. We don't talk about it, really. We don't plan for it. It's kind of like a regular Sunday, really. I mean, the only thing that was different about this past Sunday was the fact that she was home all day. She had a day off on a Sunday, and she didn't have to go to work the next day. So that's a complete day off. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I work Monday through Friday. So technically, I have Friday night, all of Saturday, and then technically half of Sunday, because you can't be doing shit Sunday night when you gotta go to work at 8 in the morning, and then you get up at 5 to work out and all that shit. You kind of have to ease the throttle back and freaking ease into work mode again. Friday night, it's like, fuck yeah, let's fucking do shit. Let's party, let's fucking go out to dinner, let's watch a movie, let's go hang out with friends, all that shit. But Sunday is just like, okay, let's take care of what we need to take care of for the house, errands, the house itself, the upkeep, groceries, shit like that. Sunday was basically another like spring cleaning kind of day. Since we've been back from Orange County, a lot of things got left by the wayside, and one of those was kind of the appearance of our apartment. Basically, it got kind of cluttered, got kind of unkempt. Yeah. So we spent most of the day cleaning, organizing, throwing shit away, like that's what we focused on, because I realized a while back that when you've got shit to do that you really want to work on or focus on, but at the same time you have other things that are in the back of your mind that you're always telling yourself, man, I really should take care of that first, you can't really focus 100% on the thing that you wanted to do, because now you have all these like distractions, and one of those is, having a cluttered house. I don't know how the saying goes, but it goes along the lines of, cluttered house, cluttered life, or something like that, or cluttered mind, something like that. But it's true. You really can't get shit done if you're leaving your house in kind of a wreck, and then you come back to it, and then you don't do anything about it. So Sunday was just like, let's fucking knock this out, And of course, it coincided with Father's Day, which again, for a lot of people, it's a very important day. A lot of people celebrate their dads, obviously you have Mother's Day, which is also very important to a lot of people, because mothers never get enough credit for the things they do for their children. But Father's Day, in this day and age, a good dad is starting to get more and more of a rarity. I don't know, that's just my personal opinion. It's just really hard to find. I mean, if you can find a kid who has two parents, even if one of them is kind of an asshole but the other one's a good parent, that kid's pretty well off, right? But if you have two good parents, man, you are really lucky, Like, I personally have only had one parent my whole life. Never really knew my father. I think I met him once before he passed away, and I was kind of, I don't remember how old I was. I think I was like 7 or 8, something like that. So I met him once, and then like 10, 12 years later, found out he passed away. So that was obviously a fucking downer because I was just barely getting on my own 2 feet. I had a job, I was working, earning money, had a car. I was like building to like move out of my mom's house finally and just like have my own, my own stake in life. And then he passed away, so that was like a gut check because I was like, well, I felt robbed. I was like, well, I'll never get to know him. I'll never have any like one-on-one conversations talking about, why did it happen the way it did between, you and my mom, shit like that. Because all my life, all I heard was my mom's side of things. And it wasn't she didn't like him. She kind of hated him, actually. So all I heard was bad shit, negative shit. And when he died, a lot of his friends and obviously my family kind of came out of the woodwork. And when that happened, they kind of spoke of him very highly, which was weird for me because I was told, for the majority of my life that he was kind of a dirtbag, So it was kind of a polarizing effect on my psyche. I didn't really know like how to feel about him now, because now it's like, was he a dirtbag? Was he as crazy as she says he was, or was she crazy the way he describes it? Because after a while I started hearing stories. My brother Sky would tell me like little things here and there about things that happened when he was a kid, being raised by both of them. See, he got to see both my mom and my dad. And then later on heard personal accounts from my dad. So he kind of had the gateway to the other side of the story, even though, again, couldn't hear it firsthand from my dad. So hearing those stories, I started piecing it together, because two sides of the story make the full story. You get both sides, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. That's what I've always believed. Even if one side or both sides have their own kind of personal spin on what really happened, you put it all together. You get the whole puzzle. You get to freaking sort it out the way it's supposed to be, and then you get the truth. But from what I know about my dad, he was an awesome guitar player, a very talented musician. He basically lived to play guitar. That was his thing. Every picture I've ever seen of him, he either has a guitar in his hand or something, musically. Like, he was very talented. Which I guess, I don't know if it skipped a generation, because obviously, if you've seen any of the previous retro vlogs with my brother, I think there's 1 or 2 of them where we film him like playing drums. He's fucking talented too, and musically wise, instrument wise, I don't have any skills. I can't play guitar, I can't play the drums or anything like that. Chalk it up to nobody started me at an early age, and by the time I was older, it was kind of too late to pick it up. I guess you could chalk it up to that, or you could just chalk it up to maybe it skipped a generation. I don't know. I personally have my own kind of way of doing things, and I feel personally my own talents that I feel I learned on my own. Natural talent, I don't know. I'm not sure. I've been told by Sky that there is, in fact, a Garcia gene, and that gene is specifically tailored to people who hustle. And I didn't really know what that meant. But then I started to remember all the things I did when I was a kid, all the things I did when I was like first working my first job, finding a way to get there to work, finding a way to get home, buying shit, how to haggle, all that shit. And then how to make money, little things here and there, little side jobs, shit like that. And I was like, you know what? Maybe he's right. Maybe there is something to it that coincides with who we are as a family on the Garcia, bloodline. Because my brother Sky, he's a natural born hustler. He works in the same company I do. He's a manager. He's a salaried employee. Makes 5 figures a year. I'm assuming, of course. I don't know the exact number. But he's pretty good. He's got a freaking house. He's got, an awesome wife, 2 cars. He's got the American dream going. He could be content with just doing that. Instead, he's working that job. Plus, he's an amateur tour drummer on the side. So he plays local shows, with a blues band by the name of AC Miles. If you've never heard of them, check them out. They're pretty fucking good times. But he's doing that, and then even on top of that, he's like finding a way to like flip stuff that he buys at like flea markets and freaking swap meets and shit, and stuff he finds on Craigslist. Like, he finds a way of getting money out of those things. If that's not hustle, I don't know what is. So that just makes me very assured that like that Garcia gene, that's what it is. That's pretty much what it is. That's the talent right there. That's in the blood, And yeah, my dad, hearing the stories about him, how he could find something in the trash, like a piece of a guitar, a body of a guitar, and somehow with his own scraps of parts and spare junk that he had, because obviously he was a guitar player, so he had to have spares of everything. He would piece together a guitar and then find someone to sell that guitar to, and then give him this like grandiose, over the top, crazy fucking story about that guitar that would make you believe that, man, this is like a piece of history that I have in my hands. I have to buy it. And you wouldn't even be mad if you found out it was a piece of shit. You'd be like, dude, this sounds good though. So that's like what I heard about my dad, the way he would like make shit happen. So getting back to Father's Day, me and Jess, we talk about our dads from time to time. A lot of both of our dads have a lot of similarities, in that their downfall was similar in respect to their drug use, which I personally don't have any grudges against my dad for the way he went on about his life, the way he lived it. Again, I didn't know him enough to have an opinion to be like, man, you're a piece of shit dad, man. You never raised me, something like that. You see, like, you watch those kind of movies or shows where, like, the dad comes back into the kid's life and the kid's like, you were never there. Where were you when I need you? Shit like that. That never really occurred for me. That never really happened. I was kind of, raising myself for most of my life anyways. My mom did the best she could with the situation she was put in, and I'm always grateful for her for that. But she was not the best equipped to raise any kid. Doesn't matter. On her own, at least, So with respect to him, I just feel like I was cheated out of a chance to get to know him, to get to know the real Daniel Garcia, that's his name, and talk about. I wouldn't even ask him about anything really about the past, even though I would really want to. I would have focused more on just getting to know him, kind of trying to find some like commonalities, some common interests, shit like that. That's what I would focus on if I had the chance to talk with him, ever again. And I do believe someday I will. I do believe someday we will meet in some fashion or another. And when that time happens, I'll get to bounce some ideas off of him, see where he lands on it, But that's pretty much how I feel about Father's Day. I don't feel angry about it. I don't feel like disappointed, like, oh, I can't another year without my dad, something like that. A lot of people have that feeling, and I don't blame them for it, because if you know someone, you love them, and then all of a sudden you lose them, that's the toughest shit in the world. And Jesse experienced that, and I don't wish that on anyone. But the way I feel about people passing on is that you should celebrate it, and not in the way of like dancing on their fucking grave saying, ha ha, you fucking kicked the bucket, piss off, not like that, but kind of you celebrate who they were, the life they lived. Hopefully it was a good life. If it wasn't, then you still have good memories with that person in one shape or another, and you focus on those. You don't focus on the bad shit, because focusing on that only brings you down, right? I prefer to celebrate the person, I prefer to remember the good times, because those are the memories that keep you going when you miss them the most. That's what I think. So celebrating who they were is something that I will always focus on. And if it's a Father's Day in which I don't have the opportunity of celebrating with someone, my father, or any holiday that involves someone specific, Mother's Day or whatever, I focus on the good time, and that's the easiest way to get through it if you don't have that person in your life anymore. Because again, I have memories of things that other people showed me or told me about him. I have pictures of him. I have one of his guitars in a guitar case, and that guitar was his main guitar, the guitar that he always played gigs with. That was his like main freaking deal. Everywhere he went, that's what he took with him to play. So every now and again, I'll take it out of the closet, open it up, attempt to play a couple of chords, or I have Rocksmith on our PlayStation 3. You can play like music with it, if you plug in a guitar. So I'll try and play a couple of songs with it, and then I'll put it away, and that'll be enough, It was a good day on Sunday. Even if we didn't celebrate the meaning of it, we got a lot of shit done. The house was clean. Our life was definitely less cluttered at the end of the day, so that was good. We celebrated the day as a team together, That was our day to just be together.
Little orphan babies.
In the midst of the meaning of the day, we were here for each other. That's basically how it went down. And even as I'm recording this, she's right over here on the couch, being my producer, recording, making sure everything goes tip top. But yeah, that was Father's Day, and I hope that whoever's listening, that you guys had an awesome Father's Day. Hopefully, you got to celebrate it with the person who you wanted to, and obviously let them know how you feel, let them know what you really think about them. Don't waste any time, because it's a funny thing, time. You only get so much of it, and when something happens and you run out of that time to do something or be with that person, you can't get it back. You can't go back in time. You can't take a fucking time machine and undo it, So it's like, you do it now. You take care of it now. You got something in the back of your head you need to get off your chest. With that person in particular, you got to do it, because you'll regret it if you miss out on the chance. Lesson learned, everybody. Alright, so we're going to talk about something that could potentially rub people the wrong way. Maybe. Hope not. It's not my intention. But politics. Now, most people, when they hear that word, immediately put off by it. They're like, I'm not really in the mood to talk about that. Or if you bring it up at a party, they're like, let's not talk about that stuff. Let's talk about music or something. It's one of those topics where it's like, you're going to get into an argument with someone just based on how you know that person so far. And if you don't know, where they stand politically, it's kind of like fighting in the dark. You could hit anybody, and it's just fucking wild swings and punches and kicks. You don't know where it's coming from. It's just a fucking brawl in the pitch black. When I started this podcast, one of the things that I really wanted to talk about was politics, because I feel very strongly about it. I feel very strongly about the way our government runs things. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, our military, our domestic problems, I feel strongly about talking about those things. And very few people have been able to have an actual conversation with me. A while back, before I even recorded the first episode, I made a recording of what I thought about the current presidential candidates on the Republican side, and I never got to publish that publicly because by the time I wanted to, I think Cruz had dropped out of the race, and I felt like it was already irrelevant, it wasn't current enough, so I kind of ditched that. But I personally was a supporter of Ted Cruz. Obviously he dropped out. Obviously Trump is the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party. I have currently stuck to my guns. Not saying that, I'm not voting for Trump because I'm a Cruz supporter and I'm just going to write in Cruz. It's more along the lines of, I found a candidate that I believed in, and the one who is currently going to be the nominee on the Republican side of the election, I do not agree with on a lot of things. As I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the podcast, I have found that a lot of my Democratic Party friends, and I do have them, have also shown similar distaste for their nominee, which at the moment is Hillary Clinton. They have also shared their lack of confidence in her, their lack of trust. Compared to mine, I do not trust Trump. I don't think he knows what he's doing. I think he's just there to shake up the system enough and then walk away and go back to whatever he was doing when he was running his empire into the ground. There's a lot going on with that, because you have what I feel is two sides of the same coin. You have Trump, who is an entrepreneur. Yes, he has made millions of dollars, if not, tens or hundreds of millions. Who knows how much he's made in the real estate game, He has openly admitted that he has used the system to benefit him in every shape and form. He's declared bankruptcy multiple times, come out of it each time basically unscathed. The majority of his money that he's used for this campaign of his is not his own money. He's like taking money from people, taking out loans. He's not a politician, but at the same time, he's not much more different than a politician, in my opinion. The way he manipulates the system and the money involved and the people involved, he might as well be a politician, because in some way or form they all kind of make their own deals behind closed doors, to get what they want, right? Then you have Hillary Clinton, someone who is currently being investigated by the FBI. All those emails that were on her public server when they should have been in a secured State Department server as required by our own government. She refused to do it, and now there's hundreds of thousands of missing emails just out of the blue, and she can't account for them. And then was presiding as a Secretary of State when the tragedy in Benghazi happened. We lost an ambassador, we lost Marines, and then they spun it as people who saw a YouTube video were offended by its anti-Islamic stance and then chose to take their anger out on the U.S. Embassy. Convenient, my thinking is, because there never was a movie on YouTube that they were specifically pointing out that had those connotations of anti-Islamic hate or whatever. It didn't actually exist. They were making it up. It was just a front to just be like, that's why it happened. That's the reason they did it. That's the reason they killed all those people in the embassy. It was strictly terrorist attack on an American piece of land with American citizens inhabited by that. And she hasn't answered for that yet. That's my issue with her. People died on her watch, and she didn't take responsibility for it. So that's the reason I don't trust her at all. That's the big reason, was that people died on her watch, and she has shown no remorse. She has shown no enthusiasm to paying back that debt to those families who lost their loved ones at that night. Pretty sure they made a movie about it. It's like a Michael Bay film or something. 13 hours, or I can't remember what it's called. I haven't seen it yet, but I think I want to. It's like Black Hawk Down kind of deal. A lot of my friends agree that both sides are of the same coin. We're getting two very sneaky, under the table, sketchy candidates, and we're left with just them. That's who we're left with picking. It's exposed our current political system for what it really is. You're only given two choices. You feel like you have the freedom of choice, but when it's one bad candidate and then another bad candidate, how can you feel like you made the right choice? People are starting to finally figure out that, hey, I'm getting a little tired of deciding between the lesser of two evils. Why does it have to be that way every single time? Why can't I get someone who's clearly a cut above the rest, a leader, someone who's trustworthy, someone who hasn't committed heinous crimes, financially, militarily, anything. Someone who has ideals, who stands by our laws, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights. Like, why can't we get a candidate like that? Because I know that on both sides, there has to be someone. I don't know who they are. There's very few. The other thing that's bothering both sides of this debate is that when people went to the polls, their vote was either not counted or it was switched to the opposite of who they voted for. If you went in there and voted for Trump, somehow in some of these precincts in the state of California, I can only speak in terms of the state of California, I'm not sure where else it happened in the country. If you voted for one candidate, somehow the system would switch your vote in order to vote for someone else. Because I know in California, if you're registered with a political party, when it comes time to vote, you're only given the choices of that party to select from. So in terms of the Republican Party, I believe you had 3 choices: Trump, Cruz, the governor from Ohio, I can't remember his name, Kasich I think his name is, and then I believe you had a write-in option, I'm not sure. And on the Democratic side, you had Clinton and Bernie Sanders. And a lot of people who voted for Bernie Sanders ended up somehow either having their vote discarded or invalid, or their vote somehow was changed to Clinton. I can't imagine anyone not being upset by that. When they go into the polls, they should feel with 100% certainty that their vote will be counted, and it will be counted accurately to what they chose, to who they chose. And they haven't really answered for that. What really happened, why it happened. They kind of just let it fall by the wayside. As a result, Clinton has won, I believe she's won California. Bernie Sanders needed to win California to even have a snowball's chance in hell of going to the Democratic National Convention and actually making a case for him to be president. The way that convention works is once they get to the convention, the delegates involved basically decide who the candidate's going to be, despite what the votes are for, despite how many delegates the candidates won. Those delegates could flip at any given moment. They could switch their vote right then and there at the convention. So anyone that's pledged their loyalty to a candidate could turn about face and choose the other candidate. That could happen at either one of these conventions coming up later in the year. Especially for Bernie Sanders supporters. Those are the people that I'm actually finding some compromise with in terms of what our political system is about, what's wrong with our country currently. Ideologically, I know he's a socialist and he wants democratic socialism for America, because he's seen it in Europe, he's seen it succeed in other countries, and he wants to bring that same ideological economy and way of life to America. On that, I'm not sure I can compromise much. As it is, we have plenty of socialist policies in place in our current system. You know, one of them obviously being welfare, Social Security. I mean, that was designed for specific reasons, and now it's been so abused by our politicians in Washington that it's slowly withering away until the point where there won't be any more Social Security for the elderly. And that scares the hell out of me, because I don't want to be retired age and have nothing but government assistance to depend on. I don't want that. I never enjoyed that prospect of 40, 50 years down the line and having to wait on a government paycheck for money that I paid into the system over the span of my, working life. That scares the shit out of me. I don't want to be in that position. I mean, my whole belief on that is I feel like my money is better spent in my hands. That's what I feel. I feel like I can do more with the money I earn than the government can. Because this is where both sides are starting to agree that the government throws a lot of money away. They waste a lot. A lot of money disappears. A lot of money gets spent on things that nobody knows about. A lot of money gets given to people that don't deserve it. A part of that is, welfare and all that stuff. But the other part is like crooked politicians making backdoor deals, getting jobs at corporations after their terms in office. They get these cushy, executive jobs where they're paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And because they're retired politicians, they get a pension from the government for the rest of their life until they're dead. That bothers me too. Especially when we have veterans here who went abroad, sacrificed, got shot, got limbs blown off, and the best we can do for them is multiple months, sometimes even years of waiting in line at the VA for assistance, for care, The politicians don't deserve that money. The veterans do. They're the ones that deserve all the care in the world. And that's something that both sides can hang their hat on. So when it comes time in November to finally make a decision, I think our country is poised to finally wake up and realize the power that we are supposed to have over the people that we elect and send to Washington to represent us. I really hope that a revolution of sorts happens in which we start taking accountability for what we've done to this country, because we can put it on the politicians and the decisions they've made. But at the end of the day, we elected them. We put them there. And we didn't hold them accountable. We didn't hold their feet to the fire. And every time that happens, all we do is say, it's time to get someone else in there. That's not enough. Once you get someone else in there, you've got to stay on them. And you've got to make sure that they're doing exactly what your tax dollars are paying them to do, and that serve your best interests at all times. Yes, I don't trust either Trump or Clinton, but to be honest, if Trump were president, he would be very dangerous. He has a lot of commonalities with a young Adolf Hitler. Not in that he wanted to erase a race of people from the earth and that he felt superior to the world, but in the respect that he used Hitler, I'm speaking of, used very intimidating tactics, and the people that supported him were fanatical in that if you didn't believe what they believed, they would hurt you, they would kill you, they would crush you, no matter what it took, because they couldn't have opposition, they couldn't handle opposition, Everything that opposed them was a threat, and it had to be destroyed. And that's what I feel like people who support Trump are starting to turn into. They're becoming fanatical. Because even their own Republican supporters who supported the other candidates became people that were saying things like, if you don't vote for Trump, you're basically voting for Clinton and you're a traitor. Instead of saying vote for who you believe matches you in terms of things that you believe in, they're saying vote for Trump or die. That's what I feel like Trump supporters are becoming. Just watching the way they treat people, even if they're Republicans, they treat their own with such disdain. If you're not wearing a Trump shirt or a "Let's Make America Great Again" hat, they don't want you. They'd rather see you eliminated than, supporting someone else than Trump. That's what I'm afraid of. I feel like Trump, if he's in charge, things would go very smoothly for him. He wouldn't have much resistance when it came time to get things passed legislative wise through Congress, through the Senate. He would have a lot of people in his corner because he's that kind of person who knows how to make deals. He knows how to negotiate. That's what he does for a living. But we'll see. When the conventions come around, anything can happen. And I really hope that that's when people decide to wake up. To put a point to this part of the podcast, I want to read to you something that I posted on Facebook on this date in 2015. Mind you, this was at 6 in the morning. I had just woken up, and me and Jesse had a very interesting discussion the night before about the future and what our country's going to be. When it comes time for us to own a house, when it comes time for us to start a family, have kids, we started talking about, like, what's the world going to be like, though, when we want to raise a child. And when I woke up the next day, I felt like I had to say something about it. And so this is what I posted. I hope you take these words to heart, because this is straight from the bottom of my heart, and it's I still believe it to this day. So here we go. It's so easy to hate. You have to understand that there are people in this country who want to keep us divided. You can label me a conspiracy theorist if you want. That's fine. But when you see what the media reports about every day, it's clear that fear becomes control. If anything, this is the time that we should unite. Maybe things aren't as dark and gloomy as the news would have us believe. And that's why they don't want us to join hands. Terrorists, bombings, shootings, they're on the front of every news outlet, and it grabs our attention. Celebrities, sports, the latest fads, they keep us distracted. We have to open our eyes to the world around us. You need to pick your head up from your phone and have a face-to-face conversation with someone. We are readily dropping all of the things that should make this country, dare I say, this planet, so beautiful and amazing, in favor of our own comfort and convenience. People are starving right now in this world. is the best I can do to like a food drive post. I'm guilty of all the things that I've spoken of. I can't ignore it anymore. I'm not sure why I've decided to post this at 6 in the morning, but there's just so much hate in this world. Maybe through love, we can finally conquer the things that very well may doom our society and ultimately our species. Fight for the future you want, not the world you have. I know some of you will listen to this. Others will ignore. But I'm hoping that my friends and the people listening to this will listen. I know that a few of you might disagree with me ideologically as well as politically, but that doesn't make me hate you. I hope you feel the same way about me. I hope that you take a moment and realize that every discussion we have, whether it be politics, technology, or whatever has been talked about for tens of thousands of years, we're talking to each other the way humans should. I never go into a debate or conversation thinking, I'm going to hurt you for the way you think or what you believe. I love the interactions that I have with my friends. That's when I feel most human, when we talk to each other. That's when I feel love rather than hate. So in closing, there are still good people in this world. Don't give up on humanity just yet. There's so much more we can do to save each other from this world that the media shows us every day. We can be better than we were yesterday. We just require the courage to become it. And with that, we'll call it a night. Well, thank you guys for listening. That was pretty good, I think. But we have to call it a night now and move on to the next episode. Hopefully we come to some kind of understanding here. If you guys enjoy this podcast, feel free to give me a like. Give us a like. If you have any questions or comments on what I talked about in this episode, feel free to leave a comment in the section below. And again, if you want to listen to the previous episode of the Whitest Mexican, the link will be in the description below. Until then, adios.